This is the first time that we are presenting this to the broader Woodside Fire Protection District. It is a class that is often presented by our fire marshal and myself, our fire marshal Don Bullard and myself, multiple times in many different ways. But you'll be provided the same information. This a little bit is going to be redundant if you have taken our basics of emergency preparedness class. And that is when we get into more the tail end of this presentation. I know the class is scheduled from 6 to 8:30, but I'm hoping that we don't go as long. We're still trying to figure out the time dynamics of the class. And normally when we're in person, when we're holding these sessions, they do go for about 2.5 hours with questions throughout. I understand that can be very difficult when you're sitting watching a computer screen. So I'm trying to reduce this. But one thing with this is after the fact, what we are doing is we're posting all of our trainings on our WPV-Ready YouTube channel. And what's great is we just posted the basics class that we taught 2 weeks ago with Chip Swan. For those of you who know Chip, he actually broke the video up so that you only need to watch segments of it. You don't have to watch the whole thing, which is great because it was a very long class. So we're hoping to do that with this one and any future ones. And then as we have more classes scheduled, we are not just going to post the video. We're going to actually do live sessions because we find it very beneficial and we learn things every time we present this. So we change things every single time beforehand. We're always trying to make it better for everyone. Especially right now with the wildland season upon us, it's super important that we try to provide as much information and resources to our residents so that as a community as a whole, we can be more fire resilient. So that's really what this program is about today, is how to identify what kind of potential upgrades you can do to your home, what kinds of things that you need to handle right away, and steps you can take to assure that you and people in your neighborhood are all working together to create more of a fire resistant community. With that, there we go. Okay, so this is what we'll be discussing today. Obviously, how to harden your home, what hardening your home is, what all the things that you can do. We're going to start from the very top of your home, chimney, your roof, and work our way all the way out to the driveway. We're going to discuss what zones mean and think in terms of those, and so that you can have a better understanding when we say zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. Then we're going to get into before, during, and after evacuations. And understand too, if we get to the point once we're done talking about all the home hardening and zones and defensible space, if at that point you go, okay, this is a lot of information and I'm okay, I've taken the basics course and I understand what to do before, during, and after evacuations, you're more than welcome to step away from the presentation. But this is also another addition that we put into this, because at the end we discuss FireWise communities, which really encompasses not just you but all of your neighbors, and how you can as a community become more fire resilient and FireWise. And today I have with me Emerson Chip Swan, who is one of my, I call him just one of my volunteer leaders in the community. He presents so many of these programs with me, and he does so much work for our community. I'm so grateful he retired, because he's been able to assist me and really push all of our programs forward, not just our WPV-Ready, but our CERT program as well. So Chip will be chiming in as much as I ask him to. And so if you guys have questions, please feel free to raise a hand or, you know, pull yourself off mute. I'm going to be trying to mute everybody beforehand so we don't have any back feed, but if you have a question, please feel free to ask it. All right, Chip, do you have anything to say before we move forward? Are you good?
I am good. I am just going to try and get my lighting a little better here. There we go.
A multitasker like myself.
Hi, folks.
All right. So, okay, so these are some pretty scary pictures if you think about it. And the last couple of years, we've had some really horrendous wildfires. In 2018 in particular was probably the worst in our history with, you know, 1.8 million acres that were burned. And unfortunately, amongst that, 97 fatalities, with 6 of them being firefighters. And not to mention, even with 2019, you know, it was nowhere near as bad as 2018. But the fact of the matter is wildfire is here and it's getting worse every year. Fire season seems to extend longer and longer. And if you can see in all these pictures, you can see all these houses that are burned just to the ground. But there is one thing that is kind of consistent amongst all of them is all these trees in between them. And when you think of wildfire and you think of forest fires, you think, okay, they're trees that are burning, not the homes which leave the trees. But in reality, what we've determined in these past few years, especially, is that our number one suspect for home ignition, it is the highest percentage of what burns down our homes, that middle picture right there. It's embers. Embers are what burns our homes. And unfortunately, because our homes are made of such synthetic materials and are not built to be fire resistant, these embers are able to trap themselves in crevices. They're able to get inside of vents. They get inside your house. And once that house catches on fire, it burns hot and it burns fast and it spreads. And so that's why you see the devastation, where there are all these homes burned to the ground and you still see trees there. It's a scary sight, but it's a real sight. And so that's what we're doing now. That's our goal, is try to build our homes to be fire resistant, because we make them, you know, rodent resistant and cockroach resistant, wind resistant, rain resistant, but we're still trying to figure out how to make them fire resistant. We are learning, but it's a slow process, and we have to do it one piece at a time, because if you have a home right now, it can take some definitely time and a lot of money to make it fully fire resistant to the best of its capabilities. But there are certain things that you can do, and we're going to talk about ways you can have a plan set in place and steps you can take to make your home more fire resistant without breaking the bank right away, and with giving yourself a little bit of peace of mind. Also, too, one of the major things that is really concerning with these fires is that picture on the bottom left is the smoke from it. And smoke is always bad, right? But when it's burning these synthetic materials, it is so much worse. And we don't know what the consequences are from these past fires that have happened, but we know it's not good. And we're probably going to find out more here, you know, as the years go by, about the dire effects that it has on our environment. So just be aware is what I put that down to.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it used to be that everything in your house was natural fibers or wood or what have you. And when that burned, that was no problem. That's what you used to cook with. But nowadays, you know, I just look up and I see plastic. Half the things my eye falls on are made of plastic, and I don't want to be in this room when it's hot. So
no, and it also makes it burn faster and hotter. And the average time for when a smoke alarm goes out to how much time you can get out of house safely has been reduced to, you know, it used to be several minutes. It's, you know, less than 4 minutes now. So be aware, smoke alarms and fire sprinklers save lives, and that is why we require them, and fire sprinklers, especially within our household. So your role as a homeowner here, and this is just a brief kind of, you know, further back glance at it. We're going to get very in depth in all of this. but there are certain things that are code for you as a homeowner. And we're going to talk about things that right here that are code, and then things that are recommendations. There's going to be a ton of recommendations. So do not think that everything we talk about tonight is required. You have to do this. No, it is a recommendation in order to make your home more fire resistant so that everybody has a higher chance of surviving a wildfire. Certain things that you absolutely have to do is you're going to have 30 to 50 feet of defensible space around your home, as well as around the perimeter of your home. You must have 30 feet of clearance, and that's to protect your neighbors. So if you have a property line that goes very far back and you clear 30 feet from that property line, and then your neighbor does the same, you've now created 60 feet of clearance, which is amazing. It's great. So you're doing this so that you're protecting not just yourself and your neighbors. It's kind of like when we're talking about COVID, right? You're wearing a mask, not to protect yourself, but to protect other people from you. And so vice versa. We all have to do our part to protect each other. You have to make sure you maintain your roofs. You see this picture here. I always say these pictures are pretty old, but I've had several presentations or I've had several presentations, and a couple where people like, oh, I know this house, or that's my house, and I'm sorry, but hopefully this motivates people to at least fix the problem here. You have to make sure your roofs are clear. Those are obvious things. The maintenance of access and evacuation routes, we're going to get into all of this. All right, let me just click this really quick. So this is a video.
Wildfire can destroy your home and property. Prepare your home with fire ignition resistant materials before wildfire strikes. Fire ignition resistant materials can help protect your home and can reduce the spread of wildfire. Upgrades to your roof, fence, deck, garage, and more can harden your home, giving it the best chance of surviving a wildfire. Don't wait until it's too late. Harden your home now and give it a fighting chance. Learn more from CAL FIRE at readyforwildfire.org.
All right. Quick little video there, right? So we're going to get into a lot about the specifics of hardening your home. These slides are going to have a lot of text on them, and that is something that is really hard for me to swallow because I don't like that. But because of the format that we're using with the virtual, with Zoom, I feel like this is a little bit more beneficial for us because I can talk and talk and talk, but it's a lot of information to grasp if we're not in person. This way you can look back and you can reference the PowerPoints and watch this video again, and you'll be able to absorb this information a little bit better. So that's why these slides have a lot of info on them, but obviously we'll have discussion on top of it. We're going to start at the very top. Where do we start? We start with the chimney. For those of you that use your chimneys and stovepipes, you want to make sure, obviously, you have to have a flammable screen. This is a requirement. We recommend that the metal screen, it's no smaller than 3/8 of an inch, but no larger than 1/2 an inch, because you want to make sure that there is proper exhaustion, but nothing can get in as well. So on top of that, you want to make sure that you're also maintaining your chimney. And when it comes to wintertime, when we start lighting fires, you want to make sure you get that your chimney serviced, because creosote can build up on the inside of it, and that can actually cause a fire. It's happened to people I know within the fire district. I'm not going to say any names, but
it's happened to me.
Oh, it's happened to you. I didn't even know it was you.
Yeah, no, I never raised my hand before, but that happened to us once. Yeah, had a chimney fire, and it makes a heck of a noise. It's quite exciting.
Yeah, so just get that serviced annually, just make that a usual thing, just like spring cleaning. And then we get into the roof. The roof obviously is the most vulnerable. It is the largest surface area of your house, and If you happen to be someone that still has a wood or shingle roof, you're at the highest risk. Those roofs are not fire resistant. A lot of times now, if you still have one within our fire district, it's going to be extremely old. Even if it was rated to last so many years, the weathering on it, the amount of heat, wind, rain, it breaks down all that fire resistive spray that might have, or treatment that might have been on that wood. And so it's important to have your roof redone with something class A roof, such as like composite or metal or tile. You also want to make sure that you block the spaces that are in between the roof decking and the covering, because what can happen is embers can catch in there. And this theme is going to be very consistent throughout the presentation is, where can embers collect? And Chip actually had a really good point. If you want to tell them about how you figured out where embers collect.
I just, one of the things I just do is I walk around a property and look for places where leaves and pine needles have piled up. Any place that 2 or 3 pine needles have come to rest together, that's where the wind wants to push things. And that's unfortunately exactly where the embers will go. And there you have your ignition. And if it happens to be against your house, you've got a real problem.
Yeah. I used to, a couple of presentations I did a while back, I would actually show up with a piece of like charcoal, right? A little piece of ember that was burnt out. And I would pull it out at the beginning and just say, like, everybody's so worried about wildfires, this big wall of fire that comes towards you. But what you really need to be concerned about is this. And I'd pull out this tiny little thing. And I'd be like, because this is what's going to get stuck and actually burn your house from inside out.
Just a tiny ember, a tiny piece of, charcoal this size, which by the time a piece of wood is burned off the tree and is blown onto your roof and gotten sucked underneath, it only needs to get through a tiny little gap, and it only needs to be about that big, then come to rest against dust and some paper in your attic, and there goes your house.
Exactly. So we're trying to explain to you how you can prevent that from happening. Also, too, we're going to put a link so you can access a form so you can actually go around your house and assess your own home. This is a lot of info. For you to take notes would be ridiculous. So we want to actually give you a form you can use to just check off and rate your home and how fire resistant it is. Moving on, rain gutters, vents, eaves, and soffits. So rain gutters especially, I completely understand, especially when we live in this area where we have all these trees and it's like a constant need to have to clean them out, right? It's accumulating all the time, but it's really important to do it. I know some people have the enclosed gutters and they're like, oh, that's great. But you know what? It can be much more difficult because stuff can accumulate in there even with the cover on, and it's more sludgy and it can be more difficult to remove because then you're going to have to take off the cover of the rain gutter in order to clean the gutter. So actually having open rain gutters, it might be easier for you to maintain in general. Obviously with vents, they're necessary because they need to allow a home to breathe. But we actually want to make sure that you cover all vent openings with 1/16 to 1/8 inch mesh. And in the next picture, we're going to show you some of the vents that we recommend. We also recommend enclosing eaves and then making sure that soffits are also covered in resistant non-combustible materials. A lot of this stuff, you're going to be like, okay, well, what specifically? I don't know. But we have a couple of different brands. If you go to in general, the state fire marshal's website, they have very specific, manufacturers, right? That
There's a specific, there is a construction specification for that level of fire resistance and wildland fire resistance and so forth. So you can get some really tough stuff and know what you're getting. I'm blanking out on what that is right now too. I'm going to look that up and put it on the webpage too for us.
Yeah, and drop it in the, if you find it while we're talking, you drop it, drop a link to it in our chat.
Yeah.
Also be aware if you do live within the town of Woodside, I'm just going to shout this out right now because I don't think I specifically put it in this presentation. They do have a matching fund program for home hardening. And it's up to, and if you have work done, I believe it's a $6,000 matching fund program. So if you spend $6,000 to harden your home, whether it's with vents or defensible space measures or even automatic gas shutoffs, the town will pay for 3,000 of that 6,000, if I'm correct.
Yeah, right. They'll match you 50%.
50%, yeah. And all it requires is a simple form taken from the town of Woodside, and then you set up an inspection with us, Woodside Fire. That's free. We'll come out, we'll tell you what work needs to be done, what we recommend. You get the work done, and then you'll get reimbursed. And you can do it annually. So this program has been in place. It used to be 4,000, now it's up to 6. So please take advantage of this. I wish this was throughout our fire district. I'm pretty sure it will be eventually, but right now it's just Woodside Fire on there. Okay, so these are some of the vents. I'm gonna have Chip talk about this because he actually did the installation for this on his home vents. You can tell him how many vents you replaced and how much that might have cost per vent.
There was about 25 vents, and I think they were 20-something dollars a piece. They might be more than that right now. They're called Vulcan vents. Brand Guard is, you know, they're basically the Vulcan vent material and so forth, and then they're packaged up a little bit better. But the Vulcan vents, if you've already got closed-in eaves, especially with vents, and you're just kind of fitting this into existing stuff, they got standard sized pieces that you can get for just about everything. And you can get the material in I think it's a 3-foot by 3-foot sheet as well. If you have some kind of a custom opening that needs to be covered, we had a couple of triangular places like that at each end of the house. And, you know, it cost us a couple of $1,000s. But to get everything on the house, that's 20-something vents up above, 20-something down below, and sealed, you know, caulked in so that they're sealed. And now, you know, basically, if something blows up against that, not only will it physically block any kind of a really threatening ember, but that heat causes the material behind it to react, and it swells shut and just blocks off. So, you know, yeah, after a fire, you're gonna have to replace your Vulcan vents. Yay.
Hey, it's cheaper than replacing your house.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really is.
if there's anything that we can recommend when we go there to do right off the bat that's a simple, kind of smaller fix, it is replacing your vents like with these materials. It is crucial, it's essential. And like I said, if you're within the town of Woodside, that is part of their home hardening program. So they can match you for those funds. And, you know, realistically, if you're like, okay, I can't do all, you know, 20 something of my vents, have us come out and we'll help establish a plan. So we're going to say, okay, these are the most important vents to replace first because of this, this, and this. It may not be just because they're lower vents. It may be because you're on a slope or you have vegetation nearby or whatever. We'll come out and help you make whatever the best plan is for whatever situation you have.
I can tell you this too. We also last year had a huge eucalyptus taken out, and that cost more than doing all the Vulcan vents. So
very true. Trees are expensive.
Yeah. What do you do?
Yeah. Okay, with windows. Obviously, you know, we live in a neighborhood with beautiful windows. I mean, beautiful views. So some of these houses have really, really big windows to see these beautiful views. But if they're older homes, they're going to be very susceptible if there's a wildfire. If you want to make your home more fire resistant, especially to embers and radiant heat, single pane windows and large windows are the most vulnerable type of window. We absolutely recommend that you install a dual pane window. That's going to give you double protection. And then obviously having the tempered glass to reduce that chance of breaking during a fire. You want to also consider the type of vegetation when you have a window, what type of vegetation is immediately outside that window, because it can impact how much or how quickly that window could succumb to any type of outside fire. So if you have a large window and it is single paned, non-tempered, and you have lots of vegetation outside of it, it's going to be way more susceptible than even say a smaller window, dual pane that's tempered with no vegetation but has a fire that's butting up against it. That's gonna withstand way more than a larger window. So those are things to consider. And also too, having a dual pane tempered glass is gonna save you on a lot of heating and cooling bills too. We all like that, especially with things getting hotter. Okay, in general with walls, obviously boards, panels, shingles are common materials. I don't see shingles so much within our district, but they are still there. We used to have wood shake roofs and shingles. People loved the way that they looked, but they're extremely flammable and not good choices for our area in general. Embers can get up underneath the shingles and they don't last very long with the weather. If you're going to build or remodel, you want to make sure you use ignition resistant materials such as hardy board. Hardy board is a great thing. If you guys are aware of Station 19 up on in Emerald Hills, and it looks like shingles on the side of the building, that's actually made out of hardy board, which I believe is cement. Am I right, Chip? It's cement.
It is, yeah. Yeah, I think that's what, and it looks, you got to go up to it and touch it and not
Cool.
to tell that it's,
Yeah.
natural material.
You know what? I actually just looked at a brochure recently for hardy board. It's like HRDY, hardy board. It is amazing the options they have. And I remember our retired fire marshal, Denise Ania, who I was talking to her just about like hardy board and wood and the pricing and whatnot. This was right before she retired. And she said she was rebuilding, I believe it was a shed in her backyard. And she was trying to compare the costs between a shed and made out of wood and a shed made out of hardy board. And out of hardy board, it actually was significantly cheaper for her to build it out of that material than it was to build it out of actual wood. And especially because of where she lives, in Emerald Hills, Palomar Park kind of area. So in our unincorporated Edgewood area, it's wildfire. It's the WUI zone. So for her to say that, she had even more of an incentive to build it out of hardy board. Not only was it safer, but it was cheaper too, which was not always the case. So now, as things are becoming more and more commonplace, they're getting cheaper too, which is great. Also too, be sure to extend these materials from the foundation to the roof. If you have an older house, you can't afford to, put brand new siding on everything. What's really important is to at least build yourself some sort of buffer from the ground up a few feet, so that if there is a fire that's rolling across the ground, if it butts up against your house, it's not going to set your house on fire. So having that bottom siding be at least ignition resistant is extremely important. Okay, patio covering. It's the same as the roof. We want to make sure that they are ignition resistant with decks. You want to make sure that they're non-combustible. I was just talking to Don Bullard, our current fire marshal, and he actually told me that there are decks being made right now that are made out of a redwood material, which is already a more fire resistant material than, say, obviously eucalyptus or something that burns much quicker. Redwood that's treated with a certain type of material that's actually rated as non-combustible or ignition resistant, which I was actually surprised by. So rather than having to build a deck out of a completely material that's synthetic, you can still have your redwood deck with it being treated, and it's just as safe. So if you want more information on that, the State Fire Marshal's office has information specifically to deck material. But you want to make sure too that the things you have on your deck are removed if, let's see, well, we're all going to have things on our deck that might be combustible. There are times that you might want to remove those items, but absolutely things underneath your deck you want to keep clear. Especially with people that live on slopes, I found that a couple of homes that I visited, they were like, oh, this is an empty space where I can hide stuff underneath. Or I have even seen, and I hate to say this, but I've even seen firewood piled up underneath the decks, which you're just giving yourself a wick to your house. So be aware, if there's a deck there, you absolutely don't want anything underneath it that can be combustible.
Hey, I have some friends who have wooden furniture out on the patio out back, and just part of their emergency plan is to grab the wooden stuff and heave it away from the house. Like into the pool.
And that's what we recommend. I mean, if you're going to have items that are combustible on your deck, which most of us do, we just have chairs, furniture, barbecue, whatever it is, you need to have it in your plan that if you're aware that if it's a red flag day, if there's a fire approaching, that you have a plan to remove those items to give yourself the best chance for surviving. And then lastly on here, fences. People don't think about this, but fences can be a huge potential for setting your home on fire. Wood fences, okay, well, that's just basically going to lead a fire from wherever it ignites all the way up to your house. So we recommend having a break at 10 feet from your house, have like an iron gate or something just to break it up, because what can happen is the fire will start on the fence, it'll start burning its way up to the house, and if there's no break at all, it's going to burn right up onto that house, and that radiant heat it could potentially set your home on fire.
Just use deer fencing on the last section. Take out the boards and put in deer fencing.
There you go. Okay, with garages, we like to say, you want to make sure you have tools just in case available if there is a fire. Fire extinguisher. Do you have a fire extinguisher? Have you seen one? If you don't remember, go check it out. Check out the expiration date on it. You want to make sure you have the shovel, rake, buckets, hose available for fire emergencies, not just for us that may be coming by where we may need to use tools, but yourself. Maybe you need to put something small out because embers are flying down, right? It's not necessarily igniting your home because it's been, hardened, but it could be around your home. So make sure you have those tools available inside of the garage. Weather stripping is extremely important because fire makes its own weather. And once that fire gets going, it's going to create its own vortex of wind, and it can blow embers up and inside. And if you don't have weather stripping, or if you happen to leave your garage cracked because say you want to ventilate it, right, that could be a potential source of ignition. So embers can end up getting sucked in and blown into your garage. And if you have anything in there, which a lot of us tend to store a lot of stuff in our garage that could be combustible or flammable, then you have a big issue. So make sure that you consider those when hardening your home properly. All right, driveways and access roads are also extremely important, because you have to make sure that not only you have a clearance for when you're driving up and down to your house, but you want to have a clearance for emergency vehicles. And the fire district requires a 13-foot 6-inch vertical for our emergency vehicles to get to you safely without damaging any of our equipment. And on roads, on actual fire apparatus roads, we need a 20-foot width minimum. And I know a lot of access roads around here where I've just driven around and was like, this is barely clearing my vehicle. And it can be very difficult, especially when you live on a private road, because at that point it becomes the responsibility of the residents rather than, say, the town or whatever jurisdiction owns the property. But it is still extremely important to maintain that, because you and your neighbors are all going to be living there. So if you want the emergency personnel to be able to get to you, whether or not it's a fire engine or an ambulance, you have to have the right clearance for it. And also too, if there is a fire and you guys have evacuated and now we're having agencies coming up or we're having fire apparatus from other agencies coming up in this area, they're gonna assess, and they're gonna go, all right, this doesn't look like it's a safe clearance for us. We're not even going to try this. So that's why it's extremely important to have this cleared for not just us, but for other agencies that might be helping out. Yes, addressing. This is a big thing that I have the guys talking about all the time. They're always like, please, please talk to them about your address. So we have a requirement for house addressing, and it's that you need to have non-combustible reflective 4-inch numbers on a contrasting background that can be seen easily from the street. So that means if you're driving up to a household, to your house, so say one day you're like, okay, let me see if this is visible, right? If you're driving up to your house and you're trying to look, you just want to assume that you have no idea where you live and you're looking in the direction of your house, you need to make sure that you're able to visibly see that address. Again, it's not only just for Woodside Fire, but it's for any other fire agency or emergency services, whether it's the sheriff's office or AMR or anybody else that may need to get to you. You want to make sure that they're able to clearly see that the address is the one that they're looking for, because we all have mutual aid in this in San Mateo County. And I'm just going to backtrack a little bit in saying that Woodside Fire Protection District covers about 32 square miles, and we only have about 3 fire stations. Well, no, we only have 3 fire stations. And if we were to have a first alarm fire, which is just, it's a fire, so it's a first alarm, that automatically requires 5 fire engines. So that's already 2 more fire engines than we have in our entire district. But we're absolutely going to be calling for mutual aid. So you're going to have fire personnel that are unfamiliar with the area and all the nuances. Yes, we do a lot of training. Yes, we do go into other areas and make sure we know, but you need to make sure you give them as much information as possible without any issues so you can get the help you need as quickly as possible. And water supply, obviously. Multiple garden hoses, yes. If you have a pool or a well, we do recommend a pool pump, and we do have a program for pool pumps in specific. We'll come out and we'll service it, and then we put you basically on a database for us so that we know that the pool pump is there. And it's basically for us, when we go out there, if the pool pump is set out, then we can use it to help extinguish fires if necessary. All right, defensible space. So this is extremely essential, and it's in order to improve your home's chance of surviving a wildfire. And it's basically the buffer that you create between a building on your property and, say, the grass, the trees, the shrubs, or any wildland area that's moved or that surrounds it. And this space is absolutely needed to slow or stop the spread of wildfire, and it helps to protect your home from catching fire. And that's either from like direct flame or from radiant heat. So whether a fire's blowing directly up against, or if it's radiant heat from a home that's burning next to you or trees. And this is when we get into talking in terms of zones. So if you never heard about zones, when we talk about defensible space, we talk in terms of zones. And when we start right up against the house. So you can see the very dark circle. That's where we start, and then we work our way out. So we have the first zone, which is 0 to 5 feet from the house. It butts right up against the house. It's zone 1. And then zone 2 is 5 to 30 feet. And then we have zone 3, which is 30 to 100 feet. Here's just another image right here to show you exactly what we're talking about from zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. Obviously, not everybody's going to have up to zone 3 of clearance, but we still want to have a plan for that. Okay, so when we're talking about zone 1, it's the one that's closest to your house or your business, and it requires the most careful, basically, selection and intensive management. We don't want anything that's combustible that's up against your house. And Chip and I were just discussing mulch and what the definition of it was. And I need to have a little bit of a longer discussion with our fire marshal, because he stated to me that mulch is not is combustible, that there's no such thing as non-combustible, but it may just be a mix-up of what we define as mulch. Because wood chips, when we have our chipper program, our wood chips are okay to have. That's why we chip them back onto your property, because we don't consider them as combustible. So if you ever wonder why, like, oh, why are they just chipping this wood directly back onto my property? Well, it's because we don't consider them to be combustible. It's actually a safe way to dispose of the chippings, is to just put them right back on your property. This zone here, if you maintain it, it's going to reduce the chance that a fire will ignite the building next to you, and also lead to direct flame contact exposure, because you're giving yourself that nice clean buffer. If you have that direct flame there and there's nothing for it to burn right up against your house, then you're giving yourself even more of a chance. So you want to make sure you have everything well irrigated around there. Just remove any material, and don't, again, here it is, don't store any combustibles underneath your deck, right? This is the 0 to 5 foot. That's not very far outside of your house. If you think about that, I mean, you can go outside your house and just stick your arms out with length and walk around your house there. That's probably a little over 5 feet, but at least you're giving yourself the idea of how the distance you need, and that creates a very significant buffer for you. So zone 2 is 5 to 30 feet from the building. And this zone's gonna help prevent fire from climbing onto the top portions of the trees or the shrubs. And it's gonna stop fire from burning directly to your home. Because when wind-blown embers, they can still ignite individual islands of plants in this zone. And making sure that you're making a plant selection and maintenance in zone 1 and plant spacing in zone 2 is crucial. So just make sure you're pruning your limbs and branches. And then you want to make sure the pruning does not exceed 1/3 of the tree height. We're going to show you exactly what we're talking about here in this next slide. Like I said, this is a lot of info, but we're going to have this all available for you, as well as on a forum afterwards. And then 30 to 100 feet or beyond, obviously, is zone 3. And this will help reduce the energy of the wildfire in general. It's going to slow its advance basically to the building. So you're going to hit it off right off the bat. If you have created defensible space in this zone, you're already giving this is like your initial attack to a wildfire coming in. It should force any fire in the tops of the trees, brush, or shrubs to basically drop down to the ground. And then the rate of spread and flame length of a wildfire is absolutely affected by the slope, which basically means that the steeper the slope is going to result in a faster moving fire with longer flame lengths. And when we talk about that, we basically say that water moves right with the path of least resistance. So when it's raining and water starts coming down, it's pouring, 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 running down. Fire does the same thing, burning uphill. So if you have a very steep slope, the fire is going to burn very quickly and very hot up. So take that into consideration. So the spacing between grass, shrubs, and trees is crucial to reduce the spread of wildfires. It's determined by the size and type of brush and trees, as well as the slope of land. So, for example, a property on a steep slope with larger vegetation requires a greater spacing between trees than a level property, right? If it makes sense. So if you have a very flat, drawn out property, you're not going to have to do as much defensible vegetation as, say, hold on, my computer wanted to. There we go. As you would need to do for houses that are on a slope. Here's a good image for you. This is a good formula for you to use. So if you have, say, a 5-foot shrub that's growing near a tree, you want to do 3 times that height for a clearance. So it's about 15 feet needed between the top of the shrub and then the lowest part of the tree branch for good clearance, because you're going to have that flame length there. Does that make sense, Chip?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, good little image for you. Here's another one for horizontal spacing. Obviously, it depends on the slope of the land and the height of the shrubs. So this is the chart you would use. And with this, so if you're absolutely confused, you have no idea, that's why we're here for you. Woodside Fire, we will come out for free and we will do an assessment of your home. And we're not here to come out and say, you need to do this, you need to do that. We absolutely understand if it can be overwhelming, especially if a property that needs a lot of work. We're not going to come out and just fine you or make you feel terrible for not having your home or your property managed, have defensible spaces managed properly. We want to work with you. And so we'll come out, we'll make recommendations, we'll tell you what you need to do immediately, and then the rest of it, we'll try to make a plan so it doesn't seem so overwhelming and it's much more feasible. Okay, so here's fire resistant landscaping. So the good news is you don't need to spend a lot of money to make your landscape fire resistant. It can increase your property value and conserve water by beautifying your home. And we're going to show you some plants that actually are fire resistant here in the coming slides in a second. All right, this is a lot of info, right? So you want to make sure you create zones for yourself with stone walls, patios, decks. You can, use create little islands for yourself. Yeah, be aware there's no fireproof plants. There are just plants that are not as combustible as other ones, so they take longer to burn. Then you can make the comparison with a eucalyptus tree and a redwood tree. Eucalyptus tree is extremely flammable, almost explosive. And redwood is actually pretty resistant. It can handle a lot of heat for a long time. Its bark is actually very protective. So goes for fireproof plants. The higher moisture plants are much better and they grow close to the ground. So make sure that you're choosing fire retardant species. And you also want to consider having plants that are indigenous to the area. Or native to the area.
You know what they call eucalyptus trees in parts of Australia where they come from?
Well, they don't grow the same way as they do here.
No, but they call them gasoline trees there.
Yeah, that's actually a very
because of how they burn. I mean, it's part of their cycle.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Okay, so you can also choose fire resistant shrubs. Such as roses, sumac, a currant. Also, we recommend planting maple, cherry trees. You want to actually, if you just utilize your local resources, they are more than happy to assist you with planting stuff that's going to help your home be more fire resistant and also native. These are some examples. So we have French lavender, red monkey flower. I love all the colors in this. California fuchsia, sage, obviously. Oh, California lilac. We have society garlic, ornamental strawberries. You know, because a lot of times we have a lot of people that are asking, okay, I have a large field. What am I going to cover it in? You can cover it in some of these smaller or these plants that grow low to the ground, but are also more fire resistant. Yellow ice plant, Coreopsis. I think that's how you say it. California redbud. So those are just some examples. Okay. Those are the main topics that we're going to be discussing in terms of fire resistant materials for your home. This next portion, we're actually going to discuss evacuations and how you can prepare your home and yourself for evacuations. I'm just going to break it right here to see if anybody has any questions. So if you do, you can take yourself off mute. And if you want, and if not, we can just keep moving forward. I just want to give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions. Chip, you have anything to add to this?
There we go. Only, Dudley got me thinking. She pointed out that, yeah, if you got deep wood chips, they can be flammable. And I was thinking, yeah, I have some wood chips out front. I'm going to do some experiments.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I know I've got enough that I can pile an area about 12 inches deep and let them get good and dry and see, just, and this is really typical stuff that you get from like the chipping program and what have you that I've got out front. So, I'm gonna do a little playing. I mean, experimenting. I'll have a fire extinguisher there, Selena, I promise.
Okay, yeah. Oh man.
I just want to see if I can get, I'm thinking about it. It should burn actually if you get it deep enough. Now, 2 or 3 inches, yeah, because then you've got the humidity trapped near the ground and it's gonna keep it down, and it doesn't have an opportunity to have a flame column build up. But 12 inches deep mulch someplace, that's more like the chimney I used to start my barbecues. So yeah, I'm gonna do some experimenting. I'll let you know.
Of course you are. Oh boy. All right, Chip, I'm gonna have you talk about this slide really quick. I just have to excuse myself for one moment.
Sure. So let's see. I'm not going to play the cloud of smoke.
You don't have to worry about that one. Yeah, we'll see that.
Yeah, well, I see Dudley says here too, yeah, the smoldering embers. Indeed, and that's a real problem. Now, I have seen some tests done with like 2-inch at the most mulch. And it traveled slowly, it burned slowly. I don't recall them saying exactly what it was, but it just looked like kind of medium wood chips. And it was just kind of slowly moving along the ground. And the trick, of course, is to put it out. But that's if you have 3 foot, 5 foot tall grass in the yard, that's just going to roar across. And that's an entirely different issue. But you got me really concerned now about a deeper pile of wood chips and how that might burn. That might burn very well. I got to check it out. So everything burns a little differently, and we'll do some figuring here. Anyhow, the evacuation. Hello, Selena, you're back. Are you back in time to talk?
I am. Yeah.
Hi, Lori.
Oh, I can't see the chat, unfortunately, when I'm sharing my screen, which is not,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, that's
You
interesting.
have to let me know if there's questions, or you might have to monitor that for me. Did you
Okay.
hit all these points, or?
Yeah. No, so I was just going to get into that. We were talking, people were throwing up some comments and I was responding there. So we were having a free for all. Um, let's see. And Lori just said, like to recommend H&H fuel mitigation for vegetation management and home hardening. Hey, sounds good.
Great.
H&H, good. Good to know we have a specific vendor. This will all go into the notes. So Selena, back to you.
All right. So if you've taken our basics class, you've seen this slide before, but it's extremely important when we're talking in terms of evacuation. You want to make sure you have a plan in advance. Nobody wants to be trying to figure out what they need to do, what they need to pack, when they need to grab while they're evacuating. You want to give yourself that peace of mind by planning ahead. And FEMA, if you go to ready.gov, if you can put that in the chat room, ready.gov, FEMA has excellent packing lists, not just for yourself, but for animals and any other members you may have in your household. It gives you a nice basic list of considerations to have. Main thing is that when it comes to evacuations, is in advance, you need to know all the ways out of where you live. This is a constant thing I get asked every presentation when we talk about fire is, how are we supposed to evacuate? What way are we supposed to evacuate? We cannot tell you that. We don't know what direction the fire is going to be coming from, where it's going to be going. It is a dynamic situation, so it is imperative that you have personal responsibility and you take it upon yourself to know every way in and out. And you drive those ways regularly.
I tell people to not let yourself get into the habit of just driving your favorite route, because then you're not familiar at all with those other ways out. So just, once a week or so, make sure you drive one of those other ways into your area until you just kind of know each of those and you don't have to think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um, Make sure that everybody in your household knows this. So, you may be the main person that drives, but you never know. Maybe you have children or guests that are staying at your house, and all of a sudden they're needing to evacuate, and they usually depend on you to drive or tell them which direction to go. You need to make sure that everybody in your household knows all of the different routes. Have the discussion with them. Don't assume that they know. Absolutely have a go kit ready. Have a go kit ready for yourself with anything that you may need, any special medications, extra set of glasses, a thumb drive with all important documents, and as well for your pets. You want to make sure you prepare for them as well. Fill your gas tank too. This is just a good habit to have in general. Filling your gas tank when it's about half point, and then always make sure you're parking facing your exit, so you don't have to worry about having to back out or trying to navigate your way around other vehicles or other things that are in your driveway in an emergency. Okay. So how are you going to get notifications during an evacuation? Our primary notification system is SMC Alert, and you have to be signed up to receive notifications. If you have a landline and it's not Comcast, it's not internet based, you are on a basic list, but you will not receive the text message email alerts that we send out. You need to sign up on smcalert.info to receive notifications. And you can go on there if you have not already. Hopefully everybody that's on this has already been signed up for it. But you can go on there and select what areas within San Mateo County and what types of emergency notifications you want to receive. And yes, you will need to have the phone on at night to receive the notifications. You can put them on your favorites list or do not disturb. So when you put it on do not disturb, you can still receive notifications. Excuse me. But that is something that, you're just going to need to, you're going to need to be prepared for, is have your phone by your bed put it on Do Not Disturb, but make sure SMC alerts come through your notification system. As well, Portola Valley has an emergency broadcast channel. It's a pre-recorded message, and if you go to 1680 AM, it has a looped message. So during an evacuation, if we do issue one, it would be put on there as well, ideally. Again, our primary is SMC alert. And then all the other ways we would push out information, whether it's NOAA. So if you have one of the NOAA radios, the little white radios that you could purchase on Amazon, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. I got it that time. And then WIA, which is the wireless emergency alerts, or the EAS, emergency alert systems. Those all come through your phones. Be aware too, just having an AM radio is really important, because if there is a large scale disaster or event, the primary radio stations are going to be broadcasting emergency information. So those are those radio stations that are there on your left-hand side. And then if you go to airnow.club, that's actually a really important website, because when we do have wildfires that may not be in our area but are affecting our air quality, that's a good website to go and check out, especially if you have people in your household or you yourself have respiratory issues. That is a good website to just keep watch on, as well too, to find out about red flag days, which right here on the next slide I talk about. So what are red flag days? Why are they important? What are we supposed to do during them? Well, they're issued by the National Weather Service, and they're determined by three things, basically: wind, humidity, temperature. When a red flag day is issued, we want you to be prepared to have to evacuate, which means reviewing your plan, taking proper precautions such as avoiding open flame activities, not using your lawnmowers and power tools. So this is not the day that you're going to be doing a bunch of home vegetation maintenance. Take the day to relax and be a little bit more alert and heightened awareness. Check in with your neighbors. Check out the area around your home. If you see smoke, smell smoke, dial 911. Do not call the fire station, please. If you smell or see smoke, especially on a red flag day or any other day, call 911 first. We can't guarantee that we will be there to answer the phone if you call our fire station. And so we want you to make sure that you're calling 911 to get the help that you need right away. Okay, get a little bit more into animal evacuation here. A lot of us here have really big animals, horses. I've seen llamas, emus, goats. You need a plan for them. I know I consider my animals to be my children. And so you want to make sure that you have taken the steps to protect not only your family, but your pets, because they are like your family. You need to plan ahead for them. What kind of things what kind of places you need to have set up for them if you need them evacuated, if you need assistance evacuating them, what kind of items you need to take for them. Make sure you have proper vaccination and medical records. If they're microchipped, you want to make sure that that's up to date. If they have any special needs, you want to make sure that they're able to be taken care of. If they're evacuated to an area that you're maybe not staying in, they're being sheltered in a different location, you need to make sure you have whatever they need to be taken care of properly. You can't expect them. We're not going to be evacuating your pets right off the bat. So we do have a program in the area, but in general, we expect our residents to have plans put in place for their pets. Make sure you make arrangements well in advance. Also here it says clear defensible space around your barns, pastures, and property. It's really important, because if you need to shelter them or you end up keeping them there, you want to make sure you have a nice clear area for them. We don't want you letting animals loose. The worst thing that can happen, all of a sudden we have horses and livestock that's stressed out, running up and down the streets. That's going to create a huge threat to life if that happened. Okay, I think there's another video. Hold up. Let me just let it load for a second.
After 5 years of drought and with millions of dead trees, wildfires in California are burning hotter, faster, and more unpredictably. Be ready now. Get set by ensuring you know what to take and where to go if you have to evacuate. And when the wildfire does strike in your area, go early for the safety of you and your family and so firefighters can do their job. Remember, ready, set, go. Learn more from CAL FIRE at readyforwildfire.org.
Yeah, that's actually a great website. So Ready for Wildfire. This kind of, a lot of this curriculum that we're talking about tonight is based off the Ready, Set, Go, which is Ready for Wildfire if you go on there. So if you want any additional information on top of what we're providing, it's an excellent website. All right, when we get into evacuation terminology, we're keeping it simple. We have three basic things that we would tell you. We would issue an evacuation warning, which is leave as soon as possible. That basically means just leave. We don't want you to wait around. But if we issue an evacuation order, you need to leave immediately. That's at the point where you don't have time to even think about what you need to grab. You need to just go now. And if we issue an evacuation order, we are going to send it through SMC Alert, and we will provide you with as much information that we can. So if we have an evacuation route in place, if we have a staging area that we want you to go to before you evacuate out to a certain area, if we've happened to decide a shelter that we would want you to evacuate to, we would let you know. But when we issue an evacuation order, we will tell you as much information as possible. If we don't tell you to go take Kenyatta Road out to Edgewood Road to get onto 280, then that means that you can use other routes. But if we tell you to go, if you're evacuating from Old La Honda Road and we want you to evacuate up to Skyline and not down, please listen to that. That means either it is not safe to evacuate down, or we're trying to get fire personnel or emergency personnel up the opposite direction. So whatever we say, please listen to. If we do not give you specifics, that means we just want you to get out of your immediate area. And that's why it's important for you to know which ways to get out, and as quickly as you can, as safely as possible. The last thing we would issue, which is in very rare occasions, is to shelter in place. And that would just mean basically stay down, hunker in your home, and take the proper precautions to ensure that you can survive in your household. And that would be last resort. And this right here at the bottom here, I give props to Denise, our retired fire marshal, because she is the one that thought of this, which is please. So please leave early and save everyone. It is much easier to leave and then return back to your household than it is to leave too late and then cause to put your life at danger and other people's lives at danger. If we tell you to evacuate and you don't, and then we have to come in and try to save you, or if you're evacuating, you're blocking roadways, you're causing more issues not only for fire personnel but other residents that are trying to evacuate. So make sure you have a plan in place well in advance, thinking about if you need to evacuate, if you have 5 minutes to evacuate, if you have 10 minutes to evacuate, if you have 15 minutes to evacuate. What are the items that you're going to grab if you have that much time? And have that list ready on the fridge, in your go bag, places where people are going to be able to see. If you have time before an evacuation, this is before we've issued it, you can go ahead. If you're already uncomfortable, maybe you're just, things aren't right, it's really hot, and you can go and shut your windows, close your blinds, this is what they recommend if you turn your gas off, if you know you have to evacuate. This is not if you're sitting at home, no evacuation order has been put into place. This is if we're saying we need you have this many minutes to evacuate, blah, blah, blah. This is what they're telling you to do. We want you to remove the lightweight window coverings because obviously those can catch on fire from radiant heat. Outside of your home, we want you to remove those flammable items. So like Chip said, those wooden, that wood deck furniture that you have out there, that umbrella that you may have to protect the shade, anything like that. Don't lock the doors just in case, and leave the lights on for firefighters so we can see when we're responding, we can see actually a household through potential smoke. This is really important, is again, and this is why it's very redundant, is just don't wait to evacuate, right? You don't want to wait. If you don't feel comfortable, you should be talking to your neighbors in these times. You're like, all right, well, I kind of see smoke. Well, I don't know, I smell smoke. I see these planes flying overhead. Da da da. You probably have better eyesight than we do when we're driving around on the ground trying to investigate any smoke. So if you don't feel comfortable, please evacuate. So when do you leave? You leave early enough to avoid being caught in the fire. Don't wait. And then where are you going to go? Well, you want to go to any predetermined location that you have. Maybe you have a friend or family member that's a couple, towns over or cities over that you've already determined, say, if I need to evacuate, I will be going to this place. That's part of your plan. Make sure you know how you're going to get there, and make sure you know what to take. Also, too, you want to make sure you dress for survival. So what does that mean? Making sure you cover up. Just because it's hot doesn't mean you're going to go running outside in flip-flops and shorts and a tank top if you have time to dress properly, because that's actually going to that could potentially cause you more harm. There could be flying embers and a lot of heat. So you want to make sure you wear long pants and a long sleeve shirt, very heavy not very heavy, but heavy shoes and boots, and a dry bandana for a face covering, even goggles or glasses. We recommend basically 100% cotton for clothing that you would wear. I had a resident up in Bear Gulch mentioned to me this past weekend that they actually had like long sleeve shirt, long pants, and heavy boots that hung like on a hook by one of their doorways. So if they had to evacuate and just get out of there, they weren't like searching around for the clothes that they needed. It was on a hook on their way out, like right there. So that's something you might want to consider too, to prepare yourself. And please don't try to drive as calmly as possible with your headlights on. Don't block the access roadways. If for whatever reason your car, you have to get out of your car, maybe get into somebody else's, or your car's not, make sure you don't block a roadway. And we also talk about the 6 Ps. So people and pets, paper, you want to remember these, prescriptions, which means like eyeglasses, medication, pictures, personal computer, so have a backup of your hard drive, and then plastic, so plastic and cash. Those are the 6 Ps you want to consider when evacuating. And in the terrible chance that you would have to shelter in place, if evacuation is not an option at this point and you're in your home, obviously try to stay calm, keep your family together, call 911. You want to let us know that you're there so we can figure out a way to get you. Fill your sinks and tubs with cold water. That could help you put out any potential spot fires that might happen. Plus, it's good to have water for yourself. Make sure you close everything. You want to keep doors and windows unlocked, though, at the same time. Stay inside of your house and stay away from the main outside walls and windows, because that radiant heat could cause you harm. Now, if you're in your vehicle, you want to make sure to pull your vehicle over, stay in an area clear of vegetation if possible, and park it. Close all the windows and the vents. Get down low onto that vehicle floor and cover yourself with anything you can, a wool jacket or wool blanket if possible. And again, use your cell phone to try to contact us. Again, that's why it's really important to be aware of where you're at all times. So even if you're driving in smoke, if you practice just being aware of your surroundings, you recognize certain maybe fences or buildings or whatever, you can say, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm at the corner of this and this. because you've already kind of been aware of you've had spatial awareness in advance. And
Make sure that your fans are off. You don't
yeah,
want to be sucking in smoke if the air conditioning or the heater or what have you is on. Just make sure that all the fans in your car are off.
cover the windows and vents. It gets very hot. I've heard some pretty bad horror stories of people's steering wheels, and people survive though in their cars. So
It's very hot, but usually not for a very long time, and that's the trick.
And yeah, and that's why we say stay in your vehicle if possible, because you at least are inside something that can protect you. And if by the very last resort you're on foot, try to find yourself clear area with some sort of ditch or depression in the ground, and make sure you lie face down so you can protect your face. Make sure you cover your body, and then use your cell phone. I always never like to put these things in there, but it's always just good information to have just in case. Other considerations we would love for you to do is to make sure during these times is to check on your neighbors. Make sure that they're preparing to leave. If you know that like an evacuation has been put into place, if you have time, if we've given you time to evacuate, you can call your neighbor while you're grabbing your stuff. Hey, did you hear about this? What if they're out of town? That's why it's really good to be in contact with your neighbors. What if you're out of town and you haven't told any of your neighbors about that, and you have your go bag with all your important documents and family heirlooms that nobody else is aware of? So that's another reason why it's really good to have an evacuation buddy, which might be your next door neighbor or somebody on your street that can grab your go bag for you, and you the same for them. Be aware that you may have to evacuate during a power failure. So how are you going to get out of there if you can't see? Maybe, fortunately for us, we don't have a lot of stoplights. We don't have stoplights. We have two actually in our jurisdiction, but they're over by Woodside High School. Both of our stoplights there. One's at Alameda, and the other one's at, what is it, Churchill? They're right by both are by the school. Those are our only traffic lights. All the rest are stoplights, or stop signs. But be aware that, if there is a power failure, all the street lights will be out. You won't be able to see anything, which would also mean that garage doors, automatic gates, all of those things may not work. So make sure you know how to open up your garage door, or your gate. Or if the power goes out, have those ready to go and open so that you don't have to struggle, or you don't have to figure out how to open them if you need to evacuate. And then how you might communicate if there is a power failure. Make sure you have some type of battery backup. I see all these power blocks, these battery backup blocks that are so cheap now, that last a long time, that have solar panels on them so you don't have to plug them into anything. Go on Amazon, you can find them on there. It's a simple Google search for them. All right. Hold on, just want to load this. I think this one's a little bit longer than others, so. Chip, you can just tell me if this gets really choppy as we're playing it, okay?
It's looking good. It's buffering slower than the others did.
Yeah, I think it's because it's 4 minutes long. So this is where it's gonna discuss Firewise communities. So this is basically, we've reached pretty much the end here. And with everything that we do individually, what we do as a community is just as important. So that's why that's why we promote Firewise within the fire district.
This is something we're working on here, and it's, basically it's a way to kind of organize the community to everybody do a bunch of the fire risk assessments that the fire marshal would do if he came out and took a look at your place. And then you get kind of an idea of, oh, well, if I can get 10 or 15% of the people in my community to do this, then I can put a number on how bad are my roofs, how bad really is the problem of just brush that needs to be cleared, how, you know, what do we really need to focus on? And then as a community, we get together and do it. And it's not like we're reporting each other and so forth. So
Yeah, and
it's working out.
anything you
Give
can
it a shot. I'll let you know if it gets choppy.
Okay, I'm gonna do it right now.
About 5 years ago, I was in the pre-evacuation zone and I had embers in my backyard. That was very, very scary. Embers can travel up to 2 miles. They're going to drop in on your property, and that's what's going to start the vegetation on fire. I am excited about reducing the wildfire risk because it does increase your chances of your home still standing if you do the work. We're working with the homeowners here today, reducing the wildfire risk. Collaboration is really key in this whole process. It's never one person making all the decisions. The homeowner makes the choices as far as what gets removed and what they want to have done.
They taught us about how fire spread, either with ground cover and bushes and fuel that adds as a ladder to catch the trees on fire. They also taught us about how if there is a wildfire, the top of our trees, the crowns of our trees are likely to catch fire, and it's good to create space around the trees as well.
The most common misconception about reducing your wildfire risk is that it's clear cutting. It's not clear cutting, it's about making choices.
We were able to identify trees that we wanted to preserve on the property.
We weren't left out of it at all. So when we talk about the home ignition zone, we want to start from the area 0 to 5 feet away from your house. You want to make sure that you have your pine needles off the roof or any leaves you're going to collect up there, anything that's going to be in your gutters, and then go down to the bottom of your house. And if you look where the wind has blown the needles and the leaves, that's exactly where the embers are going to blow in. And so the embers are going to light those things on fire, which is going to light your house on fire. And then from there, 5 feet to the 30 feet, we want to look at that, kind of feather out the vegetation, stagger things, make spaces between your vegetation, so it's going to be a lot safer. Also, you're looking at grasses and shrubs. Those can be highly flammable. You want to make sure that you keep those knocked down so that those aren't the ladder fuel then to the next vegetation that you have. This side of your property looks great. I saw the before pictures. I saw that you had trees leaning over your deck. They were very close to your house. And by removing those trees, because of their potential problems, this is much, much safer. You can do this yourself. It's not that hard. You can get a pair of loppers. You don't have to have a chainsaw. You can have hand tools, but it's pretty rewarding. It's like house cleaning outdoors. If you can't do this yourself, you can talk to landscapers, tree companies. Potentially your fire department may come out and give you some ideas. The state forestry, anybody that has a knowledge of the fire behavior that's going to be happening on your property, and also somebody that has an eye for what it's going to look like when they're done.
I was so nervous in that maybe it would look so different, but it's beautiful now. It looks great, and it was a fun day actually. We hope that we've done enough to make it safer for our house, safer for the firefighters that do come in.
Our neighbors are now very interested in having the same thing done to their property. And if we can get that done, it's going to make the whole neighborhood safer.
Science has proven that doing this type of work to reduce your wildfire risk has been very successful. Make a smart choice.
All right, so we've reached the end of the presentation here. So just in review, we discussed how you can harden your home by protecting yourself from embers, various things you can do. We discussed what zones are and what you can do within each zone to make your home more fire resistant, how you can prepare before, during, and after a wildfire, and the many resources you can get off of ready.gov through FEMA. Also, too, we just showed you that wonderful video about working towards becoming a FireWise community. And if you want to know about other communities that are FireWise, here we have PV Ranch, Portola Valley Ranch is actually a FireWise community. Chip's community, Woodside Highlands. Always get and Los Trancos Vista Verde is working towards being a Firewise community. So, and I think there's one more, but I can't think of the name of it. But so working towards being a Firewise community is, let's see. Oh, I can't see the chat here. Yeah. So with that, that's our presentation for tonight. You guys have made it, and I'm so glad this actually ended up being much shorter than expected, because this is what I was hoping. I was hoping to reduce this presentation by about half, because it can be kind of difficult to be on here for 2.5 hours. So this is our contact info. I don't know if you can probably see that. There you go. So is that better? Yeah. Here is our contact information. If you guys want it, WPV-Ready and our Woodside Fire website have a lot of great resources. What we're going to do with this program, obviously, is present it again, make it bigger and better each time, and post it on our YouTube channel. If you missed our basics of personal neighborhood preparedness class, we posted that on our YouTube channel, and Chip even broke it up into sections. So you don't have to watch the whole 2.5 hours if you're just looking how to, store water or get emergency food, or, how to prepare for wildland fire as opposed to earthquakes. He has it kind of broken up into sections. So check out our WPV-Ready YouTube channel. Like our videos and share it. And if you guys have any questions, you can take yourself off of mute and ask me. Otherwise, I really appreciate you guys coming in tonight. This is the first time we've presented this program, so we would love some positive feedback, or some feedback in general. Any feedback is great. Again, thank you. I really appreciate you guys coming on tonight. I'm going to stop the screen share. All right. Here we go. I see people's screens. Any last minute questions from people?
Hey, Selena.
Yes.
This is Dudley.
Hi, Dudley.
I would love to talk with you sometime about the part about so-called non-flammable plants.
Yeah.
This is a great presentation, and that one section could be a whole lot more appropriate to our location.
Oh, I would love that, actually. I kind of took it from Dawn, so I love any actual, what I can get from you guys who are actually living in the area, have experience with that. Absolutely. I would love that.
Good. I will send you an email to follow up. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good stuff. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions from anybody? You guys have been great. I just want to say thank you so much again. You guys all have a great night. I guess we'll finish this recording. It's been wonderful. Thanks, Liz. It's great to see you. You're such a huge support for us. We appreciate you. I hope to see you in person soon. This is so terrible, right? Oh. Okay, everyone. Chip, you can end this recording, and have a great night, and until next time.